welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana. Here in this podcast, we dive deep into what it really means to live a life aligned with your purpose, your well being, and your deepest values. Now, today's conversation is for anyone who has ever felt drained, uninspired, or even trapped in their career. We are talking about the career burnout cure. And we'll also dive deep into understanding why traditional success isn't enough and what to do instead. And our guest today is Shannon D. Smith. She's a career and talent development strategist and the creator of the Align and Thrive method. And she helps mid level professionals break free from career stagnation, overcoming burnout, and also realigning their work with who they are and what they do the best. Her own journey of rediscovering alignment after years of chasing a corporate path that did fit her is nothing short of inspiring. So, we'll touch upon that also. So, with that, Shannon, welcome to the show. And I'm so excited to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sana, and thank you for having me. I am really excited to be here as well.
Of course. So, okay, Shannon, before we talk about the topic, in general, let's um, talk about your journey. So, I believe that so many people will definitely connect with your journey. You spent years climbing the corporate ladder. Before even realizing the success, and at least the way you had been taught to define it, and it wasn't making you happy. So, what were the first signs that you felt like that you are experiencing career misalignment, and how did it show up in your day to day life?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And it's been a long journey, and I think what I started to notice first was the feeling of exhaustion even after getting a full night's rest. So that was really the first clue. But then I just constantly felt stressed. There was this sense of unrest or dissatisfaction. And then the biggest sign was when my daughter, when she was 10 years old, she told me that I had become different, that I wasn't happy and I was always angry and upset all the time. And so that really was a wake up call to maybe pay attention to what was going on. I hadn't really realized that the role that I was in um, was really changing me from the inside out due to the stress and just a poor fit. So that's why your show really resonated with me because of the emphasis on alignment and the holistic point of view of, taking in consideration our mental, emotional, and physical well being.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I completely connect with that because often it happens that there is a battle going on within your heart and your mind. Your heart is giving all the signs that yes, I'm tired, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm not the same me who I used to be.
Mhm.
And our mind says that no, you have to go through this. This is a sacrifice you have to do.
Mhm.
Uh, and we push through that discomfort because we believe that it's just normal or just how it is. So, on this, Shannon, how did you finally recognize that something now needs to change?
Yeah, and that really hit struck a chord with me about the we feel like we have to push through, right? We have to do things the way our parents taught us to do it. Like my parents, talked about, going to college, getting a good job and sticking with the job until you retire. And that's just not the world we live in anymore. And so for me, I did follow that advice for a long time and try to, just stick with the path that I already had chosen. But the breaking point for me was when I ended up in the hospital in 2022 from severe burnout. And that was like a huge wake up call for me to realize that I was in a really severe situation of extreme burnout. It had taken a toll on my physical health and, um, and I had to really reevaluate how I was living and how I was working and really identify the sources of stress and make a lot of changes.
That's a really, really tough. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for that, Shannon.
Mhm.
As you mentioned about your journey, especially how it hampered your health, relationships, in fact,
Mhm.
sense of self-worth. I think, I mean, yeah, burnout, it doesn't just affect our jobs, it spills over into every other aspect of our life. So, can you talk about, I mean, what are some of the hidden ways career burnout manifests outside of the office?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one, I would like to like differentiate between burnout and then the career burnout because there are some significant, differences when we talk about like regular burnout, which is what we normally hear in media and publications and things like that. That's typically the burnout or the stress that's coming from doing excessive work. Like you have a huge workload or long hours. And so that takes a toll on your physical health and maybe your mental health as well. But the career burnout that I'm talking about, it's more driven towards the misalignment piece, which is where there's this like you talked about that internal battle. There's this disconnect between the work that you're doing on a day to day and your actual core values, your talents, your strengths, or even your actual goals. And so when those things conflict with one another, no amount of rest can fix that, right? You're gonna wake up feeling drained, you're feeling tired, you feel like you're kinda like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. You just constantly feel out of alignment, and one of the things that that type of career burnout or career misalignment causes is the chronic stress, the anxiety, which can then spill over into physical health issues like the chronic fatigue, depression, or even impact your immune system where you're more susceptible to illnesses. So it just has a wide range of impact on us in our relationships. As I talked about before, my kids were kind of, distant from me during that time of extreme burnout. But then it also impacts your physical health, your mental health, and your emotional well being.
That's really a quite important point to
Hmm.
reach, was specifically the difference between burnout and career burnout. Um, so okay, now um, talking in a general sense, I mean, there is so much pressure to, as you mentioned, that that's kind of the template we should, or we are put in, that we have to stick it out in careers we have spent years building, even when they no longer mentally or spiritually, emotionally serve us.
Hmm.
As- How do you help Shannon people redefine success in a way that actually brings them fulfillment, alignment, rather than just another maybe promotion or a title or a role?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I'll start from like how I did it for myself, and then kind of talk about how I use that process for clients. But the way I started was starting with assessments and assessing myself. So I first identified what my core values were, and I typically talk to clients about narrowing down their top three. Like we don't want to, burden ourselves with too many, because after you get past three, it's just too overwhelming. So identifying those top three values and our values are those core guiding principles that we filter our decisions through. So for me, autonomy is one, personal growth is another, and then my family. So everyone's values are going to be different, but you really want to identify the ones that have the most importance to you. Secondly, you want to identify what your strengths are. And I'm a huge fan of the Gallup Strength Finders. There's also an assessment called the High Five Test, which is kind of like a spinoff of Gallup, but they both are emphasizing on helping you figure out what your strengths are. And then thirdly, identifying what your future goals are, your aspirations, and that could be, who do you see yourself becoming in the next 5 years, or where do you wanna be in your profession in the next 5 years? And so spending time doing those things really helped me get clarity on what would be the most satisfying role for me. And then I use that information to start exploring options based on my experience, my education, and my strengths so that I could start targeting those types of opportunities to make sure that the next step for me would be fulfilling and not repeating the same cycle of getting in a role, being dissatisfied, getting burnt out, and, finding myself doing that all over again. So that's typically the journey that I would take a client through. Now, I have it in a more structured format with the Alignment and Thrive method because it takes in account the holistic side of things, whereas we're not just thinking about career, but we're also thinking about mental well-being, emotional well-being, and the physical health in addition to the career side. So it starts with the self-awareness and clarifying those things that I talked about, like the values and strengths, and then start experimenting and exploring on what possibilities are available to our clients. And then we start mapping out an action plan on how to transition from where they are today to that ideal career path with greater alignment down the line.
Mm. No, I think I really love that you not only focus on the career or the professional aspect, but you consider the personal side as well. And
Mhm.
exactly why it is such a holistic approach towards beginning this journey, towards beginning the journey of redefining success. Um, and also, sometimes and this is how I guess biologically our brains are designed that we fear change. Uh,
Mhm.
get into a very vicious loop and we try to embrace the idea of change. So how exactly and with that change we try to give up. Uh,
Mhm.
do we unlearn that that without feeling like we are just giving up?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that in so many so many scenarios where change is hard and like you said, our brains are just kind of hardwired to resist change because I think we process it as a threat, not as something that's good for us. And just when you think about a basic scenario of dieting, trying to take on a diet, and I've recently tried to do that, and it's been a real struggle. But one of the things that I've learned when it comes to change is um, really reframing the change and looking at the future, like painting that picture. There's a chapter in the book that talks about visualizing the future and using visualization techniques. And one of the things that has really helped me whenever I need to make a change is visualizing the end and what it feels like and really pulling in my emotions, the visual components of what it looks like, and just trying to engage all of my senses with the final picture and then working backwards to identify the steps that I need to take. And if someone is making, trying to make changes in their career and they're really burnt out and they want to, find a better role that's more fulfilling, the one thing I would caution them to think about is not trying to make too many changes at once because like you said, our brains are not going to cooperate. And so the
Mhm.
best thing to do is to start small and make small incremental changes such as increasing your awareness of what's important to you, increasing your awareness of what your strengths are, and then perhaps maybe look at your current role where you are and find small ways to make improvements and infuse opportunities to leverage your strengths, to incorporate your values in the role that you're currently in. And then over time, if that's not helping, then you can slowly start making, transitions to maybe adding a side hustle or, applying for a different role in a different organization. But I always advise my clients to start small. Although you may feel the stress or the burnout and you feel like you just want to change everything right away, that's the worst way to approach it because it won't be sustainable.
True, true, absolutely true. And that's the mindful approach to start with.
Mhm, mhm,
Also, now talking about um I guess this is the most important part of the conversation. So your method, the align and thrive method,
mhm.
it you just didn't find your own way of burnout. You created a framework out of your journey to help others to do the same. So what exactly, how does this framework work and how it helps people realign their careers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the real reason that I created the Align Thrive method was out of my own necessity, right? I had gone through quite a few different career transitions. And one of the things that I noticed in those times where I was working through various phases of changing careers is that the traditional career strategies that I came across, they typically only focused on the external achievements. Like, oh, let's upgrade your resume, let's upgrade your LinkedIn profile, let's upgrade your skills and take more courses and do this and do that. And so it was very tactical in nature. And I find that for me, I'm a very intuitive type person, very connected spiritually, and I am very sensitive, right? So I'm always leaning into the emotional side of things, and I'm very introspective, and so I found that um, I needed an approach that was gonna guide me to do the inner work first and then work on the external stuff. So I decided to create this method so that I could first work on the internal stuff, which is the align phase of the method. And that's, increasing your self-awareness, understanding your strengths and values, exploring what possibilities exist for you based on what you've identified as your strengths and your values, and then continuously, recalibrating your career from there. So it's a very secular, proactive, and iterative process where you're going to be doing this. It's going to continue to grow and evolve with you. It's not something you do one time and it's done. So, it helps clients because I think and what I've noticed in working with clients is when I ask them certain questions, especially in the align phase, there's always very long pauses because they never thought about those things. Like if I ask the question, what's a task that you do that makes you lose track of time? Or what energizes you? A lot of clients, when they first come to me, they're not really sure. They go blank because they have never sat still enough to really be in sync with what's going on with them and what lights them up and what they enjoy doing and what they do best. And so I find that it's a really important component of career development is starting it within first and then working without. And so I think that's where this method sets it sets itself apart from other career advice and, methods because it starts within first.
Hmm. And I really like that you started with first how you identified your actual strength, where exactly you felt that joy, that satisfaction, that fulfillment
Mhm. Mhm.
was that you are emotionally aligned
Yes.
into. So I think that's exactly is the first step to begin with this journey for others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I noticed that when I did that and then I got a new role, I had more energy, I had more creativity coming through, It just I reconnected with my kids on a more deeper level, like, it just had so many far-reaching implications, not just on the career. It transformed many aspects of my life and my health improved, and so, yeah, it's just a better way, to do it.
That's super, super, Shannon. Okay, now let's talk a bit from a different perspective. So, Shannon, some people say burnout isn't about the job itself. It's more about the boundaries, the self care, and the work life balance. But what do you say to someone who feels exhausted, but they still believe they are in the right career? They are in the right position of their time. They just need a small break or pause. That's it.
Yeah, and that would be a valid stance because some people are just simply burnt out and they're not misaligned. They just need, like you said, they need a break. And they do need extra skills in terms of prioritization. How to prioritize their task and make sure you deal with the most important things first and then work your way down so you're not overwhelmed and scattered and that's what produces a lot of stress when we don't prioritize or perhaps we're not managing our time well, or perhaps like you mentioned setting the boundaries, maybe they're saying yes too much and it's causing them to overextend themselves, which is a key characteristic of burnout, which is the workload, like having too heavy of a workload. And normally people who have, high workloads, they are not able to say no, and that is a skill of setting boundaries. So I would say that if the person listening today is saying, "Hey, I think my job is in alignment with my strengths and my values. I think I'm just burnt out right now." I would I would suggest that you really take a pause and really assess the aspects of your role that is causing that overwhelm or causing that stress and see if there needs to be small adjustments in your responsibilities. Do you need to delegate and identify what tasks or what things you can delegate? And then also you want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're making sure your nutrition is on point. And then also I'm a huge supporter of mindfulness techniques and practices. So like I leverage the Calm app and the Balance app on a daily basis for those morning meditations and afternoon pick me ups. And so, having a combination of, well being practices and also self awareness to identify where you may have some, overload in your workload or some needs to delegate and reprioritize your work could really help you, avoid burnout, but also get on the path of recovery and prevention in the future.
That's a really great answer, Shannon. Great. So before we wrap up, I think I know our know so many listeners. They are definitely going to walk away with a deeper understanding of their own careers and how to create alignment. So, where can people connect with you and learn more about the Align and Thrive method?
Oh, absolutely. So, if you want to connect with me, you can visit shannondsmith.com. And there you can get access to everything you need to know about the Align and Thrive book that will be coming out in May, as well as my newsletter, Cure Your Career Burnout on Substack. And the link to that will be available at shannondsmith.com as well. But a final thought that I wanted to share with everyone is how crucial mindfulness is. It was a huge component in my burnout recovery, and it helped me become more aware of my internal states, managing stress, and making intentional decisions that were going to be aligned with not only my values, but my strengths and my goals. And so I'm a huge supporter, and I highly invite everyone to integrate those practices like mindfulness, meditation, and journaling,
Mhm.
which can really, really help you with mental health and mental clarity. So, and keep listening to this podcast because I'm pretty sure other episodes will really help you with that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shannon, for putting the word out. I think this is so, so generous. And also, I mean, the entire journey starts with self awareness. It starts with
Yes,
awareness. So I couldn't agree more with you.
absolutely.
Great, great. And also, we'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes for all of our listeners. And Shannon, thank you so, so much for this enriching conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey, sharing the darkest moments of your life, along with the improvements, the journey you embarked upon to help yourself and others as well, being truly aligned with their career overall with themselves. So thank you so much.
No problem, Sana. It's definitely been a pleasure talking with you, and thank you again for having me on the show.
And thank you to all of our listeners for joining today. And if you are listening, if you're feeling stuck, exhausted, or like you are just going through the motions, take this as a sign to pause and reflect. You deserve work that fuels you rather than drains you. And if today's episode resonated with you, Shanna's journey, her insights resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to connect with Shannon. We'll have all the links in the show notes. And also don't forget to subscribe to us for more such conversations that help you build a life of purpose and peace. Until next time, take care and stay mindful. Thank you.